Greetings! Welcome to another tutorial about Bloomreach XM with XIN Mods. In this video, we're going to talk about structuring your content tree using template queries. Let's get into it. Looking at the CMS, if we try to add a recipe, you first have to select the document type you wish to add. So for example, if we go into Savory and we add a new document here, there's a list of document types that we get to choose from. Now our implementation is really easy. We only have a single document type that we created ourselves, but in a typical implementation you'd have a bunch. And so this dropdown grows quite large. Say, for example, not only are you able to add recipe documents, but your website also allows blog posts to be created. In the recipe sections, you wouldn't want any blog posts to be available. So we'd like to make sure that the only type that can be created here in the savory section and the sweet section is a recipe document. And the way that that works currently is that there's actually a way to see what content is allowed to be created in the folder. They're called template queries. So it's one called new document and one called new folder. And when you look at it and you select it, you can see that these are the two options at the top. So what we want to do is we want to create our own template query that allows us to only add recipe documents. So let's have a look at how the existing ones work. To understand which ones are allowed, you go onto any node that has content on it, and you look at the Hippo standard folder type property. So here it specifies new document and new folder. These identifiers map onto a node in the tree. So if we go into Hippo configuration, Hippo queries, Hippo templates, the ones that we saw, new document and new folder, those identifiers link to this node here. When a user selects a new document option, what it does, it actually executes an XPath query that is specified here and tries to find any node that matches this query. And you can have a look at it here. It says actually any element of this type, then a subnode with this type, a subnode with this type, prototypes, and then any element that has a prototype node that is derived from the Hippo document type or mixin. And that actually matches onto definitions in here. So recipe, for example, is one. Let's see, it's referenceable. Then it has prototypes, and then in here, this XIN Mods recipe, it's inheriting from a Hippo document. So what we want to do is we want to create our own template here that specifies only this primary type. So what we're going to do, grab this one, copy this node, the new document node, and call it new recipe. Then we adjust the XPath query to say, no, I'm not interested in any type. I want the XIN Mods recipe type. Great. So now we've added our own template query. So let's go back and adjust the content that is allowed here. Let's get rid of this. So we don't want those. And we add the new recipe type template query. Okay, when we hit OK, and now we try and create a node again, we can see there's a new option here. And it has these weird question marks around it. The reason that occurs is that there is currently no translation node that describes the English version of this system identifier. But if we click it, it should work. So our recipe, for example, there you go. Now it's created a recipe document. The reason you didn't see the dropdown appear here is because our XPath query only matches one node, which is the XIN Mods recipe node. And so if there's only one result, it will hide the dropdown. Now let's update this one as well. New recipe. Great. But now here we can still add any document or a new folder, which will allow any document as well. And what we want is we only want folders to be able to be created that allow only recipe documents. So the way to do that is to create another template query that describes that scenario. So if we go into the new folder, which is the default one, it actually says, okay, kind of like a match on myself. So this is actually this path here. And create a new folder based on the content that is here. And you can see here that this folder node has a folder type property that describes that it allows new documents and new folders. So what we are going to do is we're going to create a copy of this new folder node and set it up in such a way that it will only allow new recipes. So let's go and copy this. So new recipe folder. There we go. Then we adjust this to point at this new node we created, and we update the Hippo standard folder to only allow new recipes. So if we save this and we update the allowed content in here to only allow recipe folders, then once we create a new folder, this one only allows new recipes because the folder that has been created is actually a copy of the node here. That's good. So now the last thing we want to do is get rid of these weird question marks around the template queries that we've created. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the console, go into Hippo configuration, Hippo translations, Hippo templates, and then you see nodes underneath there that all represent different languages. So we're interested in adding it to the English node. So you can see here that each property is actually a name of the template query. So what we're going to do is we're going to add the ones that we've created and specify their English translation. So new recipe and new recipe folder. There we go. Then we save that. And now when we go in there, we can see that these translations have been activated. There you go. That's how that works. Thanks for watching. If you like this kind of thing, check out the playlist that popped up on the screen. And if you want to be notified when a new tutorial appears, make sure to subscribe. See you next time.